just agree that it's just going to be this way? Can we agree? Is this okay? Can we just do it this way? Because my gimbal, the battery is flat on the gimbal. Well, maybe I could use something else. I don't know. This is a live Facebook thingy-mabob. Oh, here it is. I've got the other one. I've got this one here. I hope it works. Oh, for goodness sake. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Guys, I'm reading your congratulatory messages, and I'm grateful for them. I really am. So let's just agree that it's going to be like this. Because both my gimbals, the batteries are flat. So you're just going to have to, or I could use the other thing. I could use the other thingamabob. How about that? See if I can put it on here. All right, let's see if we can do it. Oh goodness. Oh, for goodness sake, let's just put it on there. And then let's just see if it'll work. There you go. If it doesn't work, then it just wasn't meant to be. I was sure. Right. Guys, thank you. Thank you for being with me, and thank you for the congratulatory messages. I'm so grateful. What I was saying was that the other day, it was just my wife and I at home, and we stumbled across a film that was very controversial in the 70s. It was a film, it was 1973. And in 1973, by the time we watched this film, I started watching this film in the 80s because I became a Christian in I think it was 1986. I became a born-again Christian. And I remember this film that came out that was very controversial. Everybody was upset. It was called Jesus Christ Superstar. And what it was basically the story of Christ, the story of the Lord Jesus Christ, but in a musical format. You know, instead of speaking, instead of regular dialogue, the characters in the film sang their words. They would never speak their words. The whole film is based on singing. You know, and I remember there were many songs that we used to love in that film. And it was only years later that I realized that there was nothing wrong with that film. But, you know, sometimes as Christians, we can be very judgmental if we don't understand something. No, how can they sing? Huh? How can they depict the Jesus who sings? Huh? They must be serious. You know, and on and on. But we loved, it was only years later that I began to appreciate that film. It's the strict story of Christ, but in a musical format. That's all it was. Great. Guys, there's something I'd like to talk to you about that it's on my heart, you know, because we are political contenders. Many of you know that myself and many other figures, political figures across the Zambian political landscape, we placed our names forward for leadership. We sort of stepped ahead and said, look, I'd like to participate in these elections. Some stood as members of parliament, others stood as councillors. About 12 people, as if my memory serves me correct, 12 people stood for president. And here in the city of Lusaka, 6 people stood as Lusaka Mayor. Now, what I found interesting, of course I can say this now because, you know, in Zambia, it's very easy for people to misunderstand you if you speak too soon. Zambians love to say, no, Mwewa timing. I've been hearing that for years. Timing. It doesn't matter what I say. Somebody will jump on the comment section. No, Mwewa timing. You shouldn't have said it then. You should have said it. You should have waited before you said it. So on this one, this issue that I'm sharing with you now, of course, it would have been a bit difficult for me to say what I'm saying to you before the elections were over, because on social media, it's very easy to be misunderstood. And it's this. We, as you know, were given 3 months of intense campaigning, 3 months. And I must tell you that the campaign trail is brutal. Brutal in the sense that you have to literally push yourself to canvas every single day. It's very tiring work, and it has to be a mixture of dedication and gumption. Nobody is going to force you to do anything. You, in and of yourself, as a political contender, you have to make that resolve within your spirit and say, this is what I've signed up for. This is what I've chosen to do. And by goodness, I will do it with everything within my power. I will grab it by the horns and take it to the zenith every single day. Not to mention, let's not even talk about the cost component of campaigning. My brothers and sisters, Bowman Lusambo famously said, there are no receipts in campaigning. You would not believe the amount of money people spend when they're running for office. You know why? Because it's a very expensive affair. President Hakainde Hichilema often says, politics is not a game. It is a serious business. Say that in the comments. Just say that in the comments for me. Say it after me. Say, politics is not a game. It is serious business. So when you decide to participate in the political stratosphere, be prepared to engage in serious business. So here it is, you know, and I will only speak for the office of mayor, because that's what I participated in. Every single day for 3 months, I participated in this idea that we could advance the idea of cleanliness, sort of change the narrative, change the mindset of the average Zambian who believes that there's nothing wrong with littering, who believes there's nothing wrong with obstructing traffic, who believes that there's nothing wrong with urinating anywhere you want or spitting anywhere you want. People don't realize that arbitrary spitting or blowing your nose in public, that spreads disease. I cannot tell you how many Zambians I see on the street who, and this is how they, in my language, would say Fiona. Do you know what it means to Fiona? Fiona means to blow your nose. They do it like this. They be walking down the street and then they just do this. They let it all out and then they do this and then they keep walking. I guarantee you, when you bring that to their attention, the average Zambian will be offended that you said something to them. If you said to someone, you're spreading disease. Oh, whatever I need to disease. Whatever I need to I'm a disease. No, mate, I'm not saying you're a disease. I'm saying you're spreading it. You're an inkunfa. Utile in disease. This is the reason Hakainde Hichilema is pushing for free education, so that the average Zambian can have the basics, the basic analytical ability to look at something and say, this is right, this is wrong. It's critical that we get to that stage. So we're part of this whole push to change the narrative in the average Zambian's attitude towards cleanliness and environmental consciousness. That's why we're here. Don't get me wrong, and I've said this many, many times, Lusaka City's problems are multifaceted. There are a plethora of multiplicity, of multitudinous, tens of thousands of problems that plague us as a city. But what I'm saying is, if we can begin from the vantage point of cleanliness and environmental consciousness, then all of these other things have a chance to be dealt with. The Word of God says it this way: seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all these things shall be added unto you. That's the position. So and let me get back to what I was saying earlier, is that during the campaign trail, there was this notion, there was this idea that there are political candidates that can, in their minds, that felt that they can simply sit on their laurels, they could sit at home and ride the wave of political notoriety in the name of the NRPUP. Oh, I'm going to say that again. You may not get that, but oh boy, I'm going to break it down for you. I will break it down for you. But first, I have to say that again because it's important. There are candidates during this 3-month political period that felt that they could simply sit at home, make 1 or 2 appearances on a radio station here, one there, and simply coast and ride the wave of political notoriety in the name of NRPUP. Woo! Boy, that's a mouthful there, boy. I'll tell you what, I don't even know where these words come from. Michael Jackson said they just come from above. Well, let me break it down for you. For those of you that may have missed that, what I'm saying to you is that there are candidates that felt they didn't need to campaign. They didn't need to canvass. They didn't need, in their minds, they felt, oh, I don't have to go out there and spend 4 or 5 hours a day talking to people in my community in 10 different constituencies. I don't have to wake up and spend money on feeding our supporters and making sure that our team is well taken care of. I don't have to traverse this great city from one television station to another, from one radio station to another. I don't have to walk the streets 5-6 kilometers every day talking to different people of Lusaka, trying to convince them and proselytize them to vote for me. I don't have to do any of that because I am riding the wave of NRPUP, who in their minds, they felt they were going to win anyway. Well, you don't win elections like that. You don't get to coast. You don't get to sit at home in the warm bed of complacency and lethargy, in the bed of NRPUP, and think that the people of Lusaka are going to give you a mandate to lead in terms of city council. It doesn't work that way. Let me tell you how it works. It works because you work for it. It works because you canvass. It works because you vigorously campaign on the campaign trail. You're hitting the campaign trail every single day, and you don't let up until the last whistle blows. These jokers from that NRPUP, they kept on sipping tea and champagne and watching reruns of Nguzu on Impali. And they thought that they could just simply win based on that. Well, it doesn't work that way. The Word of God says it this way: you reap what you sow. If you sow laziness, you will reap laziness. If you sow lethargy, you will reap lethargy. I mean, that's the root. Those are the rules of the game. They really are. And if you don't accept that, I hear so many people, they were telling me, here, I'll get it right here in a moment. They were telling me, oh, this ain't gonna work. This ain't working. He kept on telling me, all right, here it is. They were telling me, you lost these elections. The other guy won it. The other guy won the elections. Well, I will tell you, we campaigned for 3 months. I never saw that opponent not once on the campaign trail. Not once. Not only that, I never saw a single poster of our political opponent. Not one. So if that is true, and it is true, how would he ever say that he won the elections? Somebody will raise their hand and say, oh no, he was writing on the NRPUP. Oh, really? Yes, just the notoriety of the NRPUP. Can I tell you that there are people who don't even know their candidates? This is the work we have ahead of us as a people, not just as a political party. I'm telling you, my friends, we have got lots of work to do in terms of voter sensitization. The idea of being an informed voter. Do you know what an informed voter is? An informed voter is somebody that walks into the booth and says, I am selecting this one because I know what they stand for. I know what they've done. Who would you trust? Someone that is doing something and someone that promises to do something. Who would you trust? I mean, there are people that voted on the presidential ballot. They voted based on someone saying, we're going to increase the CDF, but HH beat us to it. But we're going to do it better. Yes, HH introduced free education, but the truth is we were the architects of it. On and on and on and on. Brian Mundubile came up with this idea that his entire campaign was based on that. His whole campaign was based on the idea that whatever HH is doing, Brian says he could do it better. That was his entire modus operandi. That was his entire message. There was no message at all. And then the biggest lie that Brian Mundubile fed the Zambian people, and the group of people, which are these PF dissidents, these PF deplorables, the group of Patriotic Front supporters who believe everything and anything that Brian Mundubile says. They believed Brian when he said the money in the reserves, that $6.5 billion, when Mundubile becomes president, he's going to get that money and he's going to share it amongst the people. Our people, the PF supporters, that 1.8 PF supporters, that remnant of deplorables, they believed it. They believed it. They believed that Brian was going to go into Bank of Zambia, bust open the vaults, burst open the vaults, go in there, grab the $6.5 billion strong, and then begin to distribute the money amongst our people. There are members of the electorate that truly believed that lie. Let me tell you, Brian Mundubile and the NRPUP was entirely based on a lie. It was a fabrication. The whole thing was an apparition designed to deceive and hoodwink the people of Zambia. That's what it was. Can I tell you that there are many, more than 90% of Zambians didn't even know. More than 90% of Zambians didn't even know that Brian Mundubile doesn't even own that NRPUP party. That party is owned by some guy named Ezra. Brian and Makebi Zulu simply used NRPUP as a vehicle to get to their destination, or at least to attempt to get to their destination. Now that the dust has settled, now that the dew has dried, now that the smoke screen has been cleared, the Zambian people recently heard that the owner, the actual owner of the NRPUP, in the name of Ezra, announced Kuti, he has not endorsed, he has, what's the word? Congratulated, that's the word, it almost went. He has congratulated President Hakainde Hichilema on his recent win, and he has pledged that his MPs are going to support the government of the day. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, that is a game changer. That shows you that Brian has no control whatsoever. He presented himself as the be-all and the end-all and the ruler of the NRPUP, when in fact, he has absolutely no control over that party. And I will tell you now, the way things are going, this is just my political prediction. It's got nothing to do, because, in Zambia, our people are so just, oh my goodness. It's so easy to mislead Zambians on social media. All you have to do is attach spirituality to it, and people are in awe. Oh, it's spiritual, isn't it? No, man, it's just an opinion. It's just my political opinion, that's all. It's got nothing to do with spirituality, okay? The way it's going now, I foresee, based on my opinion, okay, based on my view, I foresee a situation where Brian Mundibele will be ousted. Ousted means he'll be removed from that NRPUP. Why? Because he doesn't even own it. Brian doesn't even have the financial muscle or the financial discipline to gel NRPUP together, because it's not his in the first place. Ooh, deep. That's deep there, boy. Boy, I tell you, that mess you up. That is so deep. That's deeper than the Mariana Trench. That's so deep. Let me say it again, because I think it's important. Brian Mundibele does not have the discipline. He doesn't have the financial muscle or the gravitas to hold that political party together, because it's not his in the first place anyway. That entire thing is based on a lie. The Zambian people were fed lies. They were fed fallacies. They were fed an apparition. That's what the Zambian people were fed. And then now here it is. I'll take you back and I'll walk you through it, because this is where we are. When the NRPUP began to smell and sense, because lies have very short legs. You can't be full on a belly full of lies. You cannot be satisfied on a belly full of lies. It doesn't matter how many lies you eat, your belly's never going to be full. You can't be full. You can't be satisfied on a belly full of lies. You know why? Because you're chewing air. You're chewing air. You're not chewing anything of substance. You're chewing air. And because you're chewing air, your belly is not going to be full. You can't be satisfied on a belly full of lies. I want you to go ahead. Type that in the comments. Say it in the comment. You can't be satisfied on a belly full of lies. And boy, I tell you, that NRPUP was trying to feed the Zambian people an apparition, a lie that didn't stand the test of time. And I tell you what, the whole thing has crumbled. All they're doing is standing there with broken pieces in their hands and a heart full of hate. That's all it is. So here it is when the NRPUP, led by Brian Mundubile and the Makebi Zulu, they began to sense, they began to notice, they began to see the signs, the writing on the wall that this whole thing was not going to go their way. That collectively the Zambian people were going to see right through them. And the Zambian people were going to say, no, you're trying to take us down a different road. So out of desperation, you remember it. Tell me in the comments, you remember it. You remember it. Out of desperation, Brian Mundubile declared, even though he denies it, these guys are such liars. Even when they're faced with facts and the truth, they still deny it. These guys are the great pretenders. The great pretenders. Mundubile stands in front of a camera and says, I have won, according to the PVT, I have won these elections. He declared himself the winner of the presidential elections. In effect, single-handedly nullifying the position of president and bequeathing and adorning himself with the title of president. Ooh, boy, tell you what. I don't know how these words come to me, man. They just pop into my head. For 25, 30 minutes, Brian Mundubile was the self-declared president of Zambia. And I will tell you, in those 25, 30 minutes, I cannot begin to tell you the bedlam and the hell that was here in town. You guys know where I'm located. You know where I am. You know where Simoson is located. Simoson building is at the apex of political convergence. Simoson building is right smack dab in the middle of political mayhem. Bedlam. I'm telling you, man. When in those 25 minutes that Brian Mundubile declared and announced himself as the leader and the new president of this country, there was chaos here in town. That was a reflection of Brian Mundubile's true character as a leader. He stands for chaos, bedlam, and unbridled chaos. For 25 minutes, the people that called themselves PF cadres began to move into the stations, into the markets, kicking people out and saying, we're back now to where and they started making women dance on the street. Women, innocent women, they were making them dance. Those thugs, those hooligans, those vagabonds, those bottom feeders, those mooches. That's all they ever stand for is chaos. That's all they ever propagate is bedlam. But thank God the police and the army extinguished that chaos. That was a microcosm of where this country was possibly headed. Imagine that chaos only erupted for about 25, 30 minutes. Now imagine for 5 years. 5 years. That was the whole goal. I will tell you now, if you're a true Zambian patriot, you know what I'm talking about. If you love this country with every fiber of your being, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you're self-centered and if you're loyal to somebody that doesn't even love the country, none of what I'm going to say is going to make any sense. And it's this. When Mundubile sensed that this whole thing was not going to go their way, one of his lieutenants, one of his surrogates, in the name of Binwell Mpundu, revealed, because Binwell, he just opens his mouth, man. His mouth is the most dangerous tool he has. I mean, that hole in the front of his face is very, very, it's problematic. All all the hell that's going on with him is because of what he revealed. There was no sense in what he was saying. No sense whatsoever. Binwe Mpudu stood up and said, we have sent people to train in Russia. We've sent them on a special mission, a clandestine mission to train in Russia. Now, to us, to the Zambian people, that to me sounds like assassination talk. That's what that sounds like. I mean, they were not sending them to Russia to learn how to be waitresses and waiters. You know, I mean, Binwe Mpudu was not saying, well, we're sending them to Russia so that they can be optimum concierges. No, mate. They were sending them to Russia for a clandestine operation. And who knows what that is? It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be a coup attempt. It could be anything. It could be an assassination attempt. It could be anything. We don't know. But here's the thing. You've got dissidents like J.J. Banda, who consistently talks on his live stream and calls for the death of the head of state. Combine those sentiments by J.J. Banda and his surrogates and the people that follow him. Combine those sentiments with Binwe Mpudu saying they have sent people to Russia on a special mission, and then add to that Binwe saying he's prepared to kill for these elections. What you have there is a powder keg of chaos. That to me speaks of a coup attempt. That's what it says to me. The writing is on the wall. Now let's talk about a very sensitive issue, but we must talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, the wrong people are going to lead the wrong narrative. It's very important for you to understand the facts as they are. Okay? This man, Mr. Kafwaya, unfortunately found himself in the crosshairs of law enforcement. Now, let me explain something to you. This is the way life works. If you are suspected to be part of a clandestine operation and law enforcement, upon a tip, invade a home where you are found, and law enforcement or the armed forces, they break into your premises because they're trying to thwart, they're trying to extinguish, they're trying to put out plans to carry out some type of coup, insurrection, military uprising. That is the purpose of the armed forces, is to protect this country. Before I say anything else, I need you to understand that. You need to grasp that. That really needs to sink in. It needs to sizzle in your spirit. Anytime there's a hint, there's an implication, there's a suggestion that there are people planning an undercover, underground, clandestine operation to take over the government, those people become people of interest. And when they are people of interest, guess what? Their premises, they close in on them. Now, when that happens, when law enforcement, the armed forces, enter a premises that they suspect is harboring dissidents, people that are planning to harm the state, planning to destabilize the peace of a nation, when they arrive at the scene, they are armed. The moment any person raises any gun, any weapon, you're dead. gone. The same with the police. In America, it happens all the time. You know, in Zambia, thankfully, it doesn't happen all the time, but in America, the number one priority of a police officer is his safety. In America, when a police officer, you know, they say over there, they pull you over. When they pull you over means you're driving and then they sound the siren, they make you stop. When the police officer approaches your car and asks you for your driver's license, in those few seconds, the police doesn't know who you are. They don't know what you have. They don't know what capability you have. That officer doesn't know. But his number one priority is to safeguard his well-being. So any indication that you raise a gun against a police officer, you're dead. You're gone. The information we have, and I know it's very easy to mislead the Zambian people, especially on social media. Social media is a jungle because so many people lead so many different narratives. But we have to do our part as responsible citizens to give you the correct opinions as we see them. Many of you know that after the announcement of Binwe Mpundu saying that they had sent people to Russia, after Brian Mundubile declared himself, for those few minutes, declared himself as president of this country, when you combine those elements, it's very clear that there was a clandestine operation that was tailor-made to possibly overthrow the government. So people, the right authorities, the right security wings, who are tasked with safeguarding this country, swung into action. Because if you don't swing into action, guess what? Total chaos and bedlam. Our understanding of the facts as they have been presented to us as a people, what we understand as a people is that, and this is the official announcement by law enforcement, and I'm basing this purely on the announcement by law enforcement. Law enforcement has informed us that at this said premises, there were sophisticated weapons found there, characters and political players that were found at the scene, and there was some type of retaliation in terms of firearm. And everybody knows the moment, the second, and it's very unfortunate, the second any citizen, you, me, anybody, the second a citizen raises a firearm against the police or security wings, you're dead. You're gone, unfortunately. And it's a sad narrative. So when we talk about these things, let's keep the facts as they are. The number one priority is to safeguard the peace and sanity of this country by any means necessary. Many of you, some of you, don't know that in the early part of the 90s, not the early part, that was what, that might have been the mid part of the 1990s. Tell me in the comments. I was here. I remember when Captain Solo tried to take over the country. I remember when Captain Solo announced that he had taken over the country. They barged into ZNBC there, and they took over the news area, and they spoke to the nation and said, I remember Captain Solo saying, the president, the security wings should not try to escape because we have planted people at every exit point of State House. Even though I was young and I was listening to that live on radio, something in my spirit told me, this guy's a joker. Do you know why I came to that conclusion? Because at some point during his announcement, he told, was it Maureen Nkandu? Was it more? Tell me, who was the girl that was in the at the TV station? Was that Maureen Nkandu? Remind me who that was. Tell me who that was. Tell me who. I'm having a bowl of fruit. Oh, I'm doing a live. Tell me who was the lady in the booth when Captain Solo was announced. Yes, it was 1997 when Captain Solo announced that he had taken over the country. Who was the young lady in the booth? Who was with him in the booth? Tell me, was it Maureen Nkandu? I'll wait. Tell me who it was. Tell me. At any rate, I need to know the name of the lady who was in the booth when Captain Solo was at ZNBC. Yes, it was Maureen. The moment I knew that Captain Solo was not prepared was when he said to Maureen Nkandu, "Can you play Babyface? Play some Babyface." I was listening to this live on the radio. I remember I was visiting my brother and his wife, my late brother and his wife. We were my sister-in-law, my late brother's wife. She came to bang on my door and she said, and she was banging on my door. And I woke up and she says, "Listen to this." So, I'm sitting there listening, and the first 3 seconds of his Captain Solo's address was very scary because you didn't know, what was going on. But the more he talked, the more I realized this guy's a joker. And when he said to Maureen Nkandu, "Can you play Babyface? Just put some Babyface." I said, "Oh, Lord, will you teach you?" I said, this guy, when they catch this guy, oh, he's going to be in a world of hurt. Now, we laugh now because, that old saying, humor is tragedy in retrospect. Okay? We laugh now, but I can assure you, at the time, when Solo was announcing on ZNBC TV and radio that he had taken over the country, for those of us that were there, some of you are too young to even remember. Many of you were not even there. Before we were here, we were alive listening to that radio address. For those of us that were there, it was not a laughing matter. Bwana, it was not a laughing matter. Coups are not the way to go. And it's clear to us. Brian Mundubile, Makebi Zulu, Binwe Mpundu have been involved in some type of clandestine operation in an attempt to forcefully grab power for their own personal goals. Ooh. Can't say it any better than that, boy. Tell you what. And because of that, there is no room for sentimentality. The safety and the sanctity of this nation comes first. The moment you're focused on the reality of that statement, then you're okay. But if you are allowed to be led by a false narrative that says, no, this gentleman that was unalived was pursued by law enforcement, he was hunted down like a dog, and he was eliminated, then you're not being truthful. The truth was, he was at the scene of a premises that was suspected of planning a clandestine operation with the intention of taking over this country. When law enforcement arrived, there was a level of armed resistance, And it is that resistance that brought about the demise. You have to understand that. If you look at it in any other way, you'll be misled. Look at the facts for what they are. The security, sanctity, peace, and tranquility of this nation is number one. That's the number one priority. Why do you think, today is Thursday, why do you think that we can drive around town? People now have come to town to work. Why do you think that is? What do you attribute that to? Compare what happened when Brian Mundubile falsely announced, inaccurately announced that he was the new president of Zambia. Remember what happened in that 25, 30 minutes. Absolute chaos and bedlam. Compare that to what's happening now in town. Peace, relative tranquility. I mean, the Word of God says, you shall know them by their fruits. A president's character is a reflection of the people that follow him. Do you understand that? If you don't understand that, then you are wayward. You are lost in the wilderness, and we will not find you. Huh? All right. So let's continue to pray for peace. For those of you that voted for this administration, thank you. We're grateful for that. And let's move forward with the idea of progression, with the idea of advancement, bettering the lives of our people, and everyone like us. That is the number one goal. But if your goal is to destabilize and destroy the country for your own personal gain, then you're not patriotic. You don't love this country. You love yourself. You don't love this country. You love yourself.